Hey guys, welcome to our little journal round robin. I know this is new for everybody, or most of you, so I thought I would do a quick video to kind of show you a very quick glimpse into what's included in the journal itself, and then we're going to do a really quick page. So first things first, you're all going to get a journal. It's going to look like this, basically hand tied. It has a mix of different papers in it. Everyone will have a doodle page, which would be great if everybody could do a little doodle on it before you pass it on. You might want to do a little swash of whatever paint you're using and then draw on top of that, or just draw whatever. I'll show you what I did in the book that I did yesterday, which I will pass on when it's my turn to pass it on. So, and then you'll also, inside of every book, I created these little indexes, index cards, kind of like you'll see inside of a library book. So just put your name and the date on there when you either get or pass off the book. Either way, it doesn't matter. So, just so we can kind of have a little record of who's doing what. And there will be, in each one, there'll be one piece of a pattern paper in there. You can draw on it if that's or paint on it, use that as your page if you want to. I would suggest we do 2-page layouts whenever you do one, but you don't have to. It's really up to you. And you'll see here that you can see the ink through the back here. That won't be a big deal because we'll just paint over that, so you won't see it. But when you are writing on pages, if you don't already have any kind of acrylic paint under it, you want to do a quick test of your markers, because some of them really will show up on the back of a page, and it might mess up if somebody else has a page there. If somebody already has a layout on there. So you just got to be careful if you don't have that layer of acrylic paint in the middle there. Sharpies will probably go through most of these. So if you have a regular Sharpie that you're using, I wouldn't recommend using that. These are my favorite markers that usually seem to work pretty well as long as you don't go too heavy-handed. This is Sakura, S-A-K-U-R-A, the Permapaque markers. It has 2 ends, a really big thick one, so when you're coloring, and then a fairly thick one, but these fine lines are actually from this pen. And then I love the Micron. This is an 05 and an 08. The difference is just the size of the tip. Depending on my mood, I use one of these two, basically. They have smaller tips too, so they have 02s. All of these you can get on Amazon pretty cheap. And included in your kit, there'll be a little Ziploc baggie, and you'll have either a hotel card or maybe a Michael's reward card or whatever. I have a ton of them, so I just threw one for each in there. And then you'll have this Stabilo all black pencil, which is great when you put your images down. You can trace around it. It's basically water soluble, so then you get it wet and it adds a shadow, so it makes those add-on things look like they are actually part of the page. And I'll show you that in a little bit. And I just grabbed 2 pieces of I'm going to call it ephemera, which is basically any kind of paper. This is from an old book page. This is an old book. It was a Currier and Ives book. I just ripped out stuff, so everybody's got at least one image from here. And this was actually a book that I got specifically to use for this. And it has old ads, and everybody has a couple of these old ads in your kit as well. So I trimmed these both down differently just to show you how to cut down your images. So if you'll see, this one has no white edge at all. That's because this white edge will look very different and make your item look like it's not included in the background. It's much more difficult when you have these edges. And you'll see here how I trimmed very close to the image, basically just sort of inside the line, and these I did on the outside. You want to do it this way because this will make it look more like it belongs on the page, and you can make it blend into the background better. This is going to be hard because you can't really match that color. So then you'll sort of see her standing out on there, which isn't ideal. Again, personal preference, but I used to do it this way, and it just takes a little bit more time to do it more detailed like this. I'm probably going to use this guy on the page. So what you want to do is you want to grab a few different paint colors. I literally just grabbed 3 colors. They'll go okay. Yesterday, I'll show you the other page that I did. The colors totally don't belong together. But these kind of go in the similar theme, so they'll be okay. You want to also grab either a glue stick or, as I mentioned earlier, you can do white glue. And usually you want to water that down a little bit. So you probably want to do, if you do it, you want to do about 3 parts of the glue to 1 part of water, and just make sure it's mixed up good. Because if it's too thick, it won't be as great. And just grab a pair of scissors and a pencil just in case you need it for something. You may or may not. It depends on what you do. So, and I'll just give you a quick peek. So this is the page that I did last night when I did the video, and well, the video didn't go well because basically everything was kind of chopped off down here. So I won't be sharing that video with you. And this is the doodle page. I had this doodled on it, and then I just doodled these 2 little things on here last night. So that's all. And then it will be really cool when we're all done, because we're all going to put our own little touch of doodles in there. Okay, so onto the page. I am not going to start with the middle. I'm just going to grab, this is a spare one because I made a few extras. Just grab, doesn't matter that the colors don't match, because that's probably going to be the case in most of them. I'm going to throw a piece of wax paper under on each side to keep from getting the paint. And obviously I reuse my wax paper, as you can tell, to keep getting any paint onto the other pages, because they're not all exactly the same size. And I will also ended up getting some on the back of the other page anyway. So remember, we're not going to be working for perfection. So basically, you can use any paints. These are just cheap craft paints from Michael's, I think. You know, these might be from AC Moore. Well, they're gone now. But anyway. And this is a little bit more expensive, but it's whatever I had in the house. So literally, I'm going to... Ooh, that was way more than I needed. But that's okay. And take your card and just spread it out. Now, some people will use their fingers. Really just depends on my mood if I want to use my fingers or not. And literally, we're just going to slop that paint around. Now, the thicker you do it, the longer it will take to dry. Do not use your markers on wet paint, because basically you will be throwing your markers away because they will stop working. So I might just do a layer here and then give it a little time. I also usually keep another piece of paper, which I gave you guys a couple of pieces of regular watercolor paper, and I swipe off my marker, swipe off my paint onto that other piece of paper. This is a really nice color. Love this color. And I'll even put a little swatch into I'm going to put a little swatch into this doodle page. In here. You'll see what I meant there. I'm just going to throw a little tiny swatch of doodle in there into this page. And I still have a lot of paint on here. All right. So normally I do much tinier little daubs, but for these little guys, throw little bits on here. And white space is cool too. You can always leave white space on the edges, or you can use a brush if you have a brush. And literally just, this is kind of cool the way it layers over the different colors too. If you are using colors, like let's say if I used this like light green and then I used red, which is kind of cool because it gives you some cool contrast, but you got to be careful of mixing wet paint with wet paint, because you will end up with an ugly brown. So, and brown's a color too, so that's okay if that's what you want to do. But letting it dry is always a good idea. Okay, that's it. Background, done. There's lots of other things you can do, but again, we're going for simple here, just to give you a quick demo. And it's got to dry, so I'm going to put this on pause for a second and let this dry. Okay, so while that's finishing up drying, I just wanted to give you a quick lesson on gluing. Sounds like a silly thing to say, but so the reason why we have the yellow pages is you can get the glue on here and then you just stick those pages together and you're not going to worry about getting glue anywhere else. So there's a million pages in here. No, well, maybe not a million, but anyway. So for the glue, obviously you always want to glue the smallest thing. So if I am putting this onto a bigger piece of paper, I want to glue this guy. If the if the page that you have is bigger than what you're putting it on, so let's say I was going to glue onto this page here, and I had a really big image that I knew was going to overlap, then I want to glue the page and let it overlap. So I don't want to glue the thing that so if I'm going to do this, I probably want to glue this space here. You know, does that make sense? So if I was going to glue this page into this book, and I know I'm going to trim it later, I want to glue the book instead of the back of the paper. Most times, you're just going to glue this put glue on this piece of paper. So it's really basic. You want to start from the middle and go out. Always make sure your edges are good. These are good ones because this is really good because it goes on as blue. It's nice and thick. Pretty straightforward. What I probably should have done was, so now what I could do is see this sticky stuff around the edges here, so I can just literally just, boom, that page is done. And I don't have to worry about getting glue anywhere else. And I should have probably thought about where I wanted to put this first, which of course I didn't, but that's okay. It's pretty dry up here, so I'm just going to stick it, I think I'm going to go right up here in this corner. You don't have to put anything that you probably don't want to put it dead center in your page unless you plan on drawing a frame around it. Now, I kind of feel like I didn't trim this on purpose with that white edge on here so you could just see the difference of both sides. And I do think I might want to put something else over here, but for the moment I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to show you how to use this Stabilo All pencil now, which is really cool. So basically you go around the edges with the pencil. Pretty straightforward and simple. And it's okay if you get a little on the image, no big deal. Now you're going to have different, things will be different whether you have a glossy paper versus a matte paper. This is a pretty, it's fairly glossy, so it should be interesting. Oh, always close your glue so it doesn't dry up. And I have a little bit of water in here. This is just from when Michaela did eggs. So it's the leftover cups. I just use them for water. And then you just get this. That's actually a lot of water. Of course, I have a dark background, so you're not going to be able to see it super good in this one. I'll show it to you in the other one, but see how it's fanning that dark out? Makes it look like it's blended in. And you can do this with a brush instead of using your finger, but I find it's just, I almost feel like I have a little bit more control when I use my finger. Okay, that's all, folks. And I just got some nice ink on my arm. Yay! Okay, so the paint is dry. I washed the paint off my arm because I have a doctor's appointment in a little bit. And I was trying to think about what I wanted to put on the page. So I let the image inspire me. So there's a few different things going on in this image, which is kind of cool. It's a broom company, which God only knows what that has to do with the dog. But, and then I saw the number 8. Plus I thought of Rover. And I mean, I saw Amsterdam in here, and I thought about maybe doing something about Amsterdam. But I wanted to go with the number 8 and dog. And then I was looking at this and going, you know, everybody says that dogs' names are Rover, but I've never met anybody who had a dog named Rover. So what I think I'm going to do is make a list of 8 dog names that are popular nowadays. And then I'm also going to put a little note, like a comment over here, or a quote. That's not a quote, but put some words over here that says who names their dog Rover, basically. And I was trying to figure out, this is really dark, and I don't happen to have a white marker downstairs with me, or a good white pen. They're kind of hard to find, but I will find a few that I can give you for recommendations. There's lots and lots of tutorials out there about the good ones. And I have a couple that are good. So it's when you're writing on really dark things, keep that in mind. But instead what I did was I went into the kit, and you guys all have one of these in here, which the purpose of me giving you these was so that you could have the carbon paper to use for something else that I'll show you in the future. But you can also use the other stuff in here. So I'm going to actually take this piece and use this piece of the image, piece of the paper, and I'm going to put that right here. And I'm going to write my list on there so I can just have regular paper. So I'm going to put it on pause while I do a little doodling and write some stuff down, and then I will get back to you. Okay, so that's pretty simple. I did Google it, so I thought I would, you know, call myself out on it. And I'm going to use the same technique with the glue. Just stick that bad boy on. Sorry if I was off camera and you couldn't see all that. Pretty boring stuff. So in this case, I am going to center this on the page, more or less. And I will probably do some doodling around it to add a little frame to it. I might even use some of the washi tape, which is also in your kit. And then over here, I'm going to just add who names their dog? And that could be it. That could be, call that done. But I probably will doodle some more, and then I'm just going to play around kind of adding some marks and stuff around there. But I want to get you something out for a video today since I'm doing deliveries today. So I will also use my white to, because again this is on dark, I'll use some white marker to make that stand out a little bit more, or a white pen, depending on which one I feel like when I get upstairs later. And I'll send you the updated final image later. Thanks guys, have fun. If you have any questions, you know how to find me. Hey guys, I just wanted to show you the final page. In the bottom, I'm hand holding this, so bear with me if I shake a little bit. If you'll see on the left hand side, I ended up using these markers. They're just chalk markers that I had around, and I used the light blue, just window markers. And I use that to right here to fill in the names, this sentence, so I could see it better. And then I drew some brooms. They're not great art drawings, but who cares? And I doodled a little puppy dog over there, which is pretty fugly. And of course I add a little note about my personal favorite name. And just did some lines and stuff like that around the edges there. And then I also wrote some more old school dog names down here. And I just wrote over here, what do dogs have to do with brooms anyway, basically. So, I mean, that's it. It's done. And I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I hope you guys enjoy and are inspired to do something yourself. Talk soon.